pretty good, huh? I'm going to read 5 prose pieces. And it's not going to be about farming. It's going to be about a whole new topic. And the topic is in the first 6 words of this, you'll see what it is. After my wife and I split up, wow, you're cool. I didn't know where I'd live. It's so expensive to rent, and I didn't want to buy a house. And then I saw an RV park in Chinook, right by the river. And I imagined myself living in my own RV, right by the river. And that same week, I found a 27-foot fifth wheel for sale really cheap. So there I am, right by the river. It's like synchronicity in action. The fifth wheel is a symbol, a 27-foot symbol of freedom, a symbol of my new life. And I invited a bunch of friends over, and I bought pizza and beer because I couldn't cook anything because nothing in the kitchen actually worked. The first thing on my fifth wheel to-do list was to repair all the kitchen appliances. One of the women I invited over said I needed a new carpet. See, I never noticed, but it had hard places where it felt like maybe food spilled and hardened over time. Food can do that. It can harden. So I removed all the carpet after the party later that week. I didn't do it during the party. That would be too enthusiastic. What I found under the carpet was the wood floor underneath was kind of rotten from all the leaks and the roof dripping down. The roof was kind of leaky. Then I called the woman. I said, "Come over and see what it looks like without the carpet." And she came over, and when she stepped inside, her feet fell through the rotten floor. Actually, her whole body fell through because her feet were attached. And then I had to put in a new floor to replace the old floor because she wrecked it. After I replaced the floor, she came back to see the new floor, and she said the walls had a layer of grease. I started to see that nothing could make this woman happy. I said, "No, the walls are supposed to be that color. It's tan, like bacon grease." She didn't believe me, so I sprayed Formula 409 on the wall, and the tan color ran down the wall in big drips. And I said, "Hey, you're right. The walls are white instead of tan." And I was right about using Formula 409. It works really good. Then I sprayed more 409, and I was wiping the grease off the wall, and my hand went through the wall. Turns out the walls were kind of rotten. Like I could pull chunks of rotten wood out of the wall, like picking a scab, like a really big scab, like a scab the size of a wall. After I replaced the walls, I called my friend, and she goes, "I'm not coming over until you buy liability insurance." I said, "Why do I need liability insurance?" She goes, "What if someone gets hurt and sues you for everything you own?" I said, "Well, it happens that everything I own is this rotted out fifth wheel. They can just have it." There's a point to this. I'll end this with a lesson. I learned with my fifth wheel that no matter how much something falls apart, you can rebuild from the ground up, whether it's your fall-apart fifth wheel or your fall-apart life when you end up living in a fifth wheel. And I learned that symbols are different for different people. The fifth wheel is a symbol to me about freedom and new life. But to someone else, it might be a symbol of a death trap. And I learned that people should watch out where they step on a rotten floor. First, hey, if you're going to do it, do it with your whole heart. It went down on me, didn't it? Afraid I can get mad at him. I love you, Peter. It's okay. Do the best. You know what See, Dinah, I told him nobody would know. She said, you should sing that song. Nobody knows that song.
It's familiar.
The best is yet to come. You don't get it all. All right. 5 prose pieces. Here's number 2. It's called Talking to Spirits. Mm-hmm. It's peaceful here, too. I think I'm going to just stand here. I'm very uncomfortable, can you tell? I'm uncomfortable. It's the feeling that Peter could start playing the piano at any moment. That I have no control. I don't have to have control. I'm not a control figure. Here's what happened. I started talking to spirits, or spirits started talking to me. We started talking to each other, and they really are good conversationalists, considering they don't have any larynx. That's voice box, they don't have that. It started happening when my marriage fell apart. I had so much stress and anxiety, and something inside me snapped. And the inner voice became very clear to me. Somebody once told me, it's okay to talk to yourself, but you should worry if you start answering yourself. And I said, is that true? And he said, yes, it's true. And I said, I wasn't asking you, I was asking myself. And I said, he's wrong. And then it's a lot more common than you think to talk to spirit guides or the inner voice. There's a survey that shows that 90% of Americans pray every day. And the survey just didn't say how many people get an answer back. It's all one-sided conversations. For some reason, it's normal if you talk to God, but if God starts talking back, then you're crazy. My marriage ended, and suddenly, more than ever before, I felt like I needed to follow my life path. I'm sure we all feel that at times, like follow your bliss, follow your bliss. But I used to stop myself because I worried that people would think I'm crazy. People might say, his bliss is crazy. As if my bliss is crazier than other people's bliss. Follow your bliss, crazy person. In fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales, there's this archetypal figure. Oh yeah, Grimm's. You know in Grimm's fairy tales? I don't know. There were 2 of them, Two Grimm's brothers, weren't there? People forget about the 3rd Grimm, Gummo. Harpo, Chico, Zeppo, Gummo. Here's the 5th one. Oh, I left Harpo out. Oh, how could I forget Harpo? Harpo Grimm. What the hell was I? It's a serious stuff. Do you see that it is more serious? In fairy tales, Grimm's fairy tales, there's an archetypal figure. His name is Dumbling. Dumbling. He finds a room full of toads, and he talks to the queen of the toads. And the queen of the toads in the fairy tale represents the inner voice. Dumbling looks like an idiot because he listens to the inner voice. And everyone thinks he's dumb, but he becomes the hero because of the inner voice. It's the same thing as saying, trust your instincts. Trust your instincts, trust the inner voice. Listen to the queen of the toads. Don't worry, just listen to the queen. The toads. It's not always a toad. Sometimes it's like a little songbird, or 7 dwarves, or a cat wearing boots. Disney ruined it, really, he did. The point is, trust your instincts, trust Puss in Boots. This is going to be a cat food commercial. Sometimes the inner voice appears as a Jungian anima figure.